Welcome back. I'm so excited about you hearing Trey Gowdy, Congressman Trey Gowdy, as he spoke during the previous administration at Liberty University, and he's saying such an important word for us that we have to listen to this. And he talks about a particular Athens and the Milos people that, you know, they had a very small number, reportedly 300 people on an island, and their enemy was so big coming against them. He's talking about history, and he says that you got to take a stand. I want you to hear him, because this is Congressman Trey Gowdy, and he's saying that America will make it if we as the American people understand we're the people that make it stand. We have to make a decision to fight, but fight the right way. As a matter of fact, here is Trey Gowdy, Congressman Trey Gowdy at Liberty University.
All right, most of our fellow citizens think that our country is headed in the wrong direction. And I am not here to make a political speech. You may or may not agree with that, but the polling indicates that most of our fellow citizens think the country is headed in the wrong direction. You may think that the country is headed in the right direction, but you think we ought to go at a quicker pace. So what I want to share with you this morning is equally applicable no matter what. If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sin and heal their land. The first time I saw that passage, it was sent to me by a friend of Pastor Hamlet's and mine, Dr. Ed Young in Houston, Texas, sent that to me, and my eyes immediately went to the very first part of that verse. If my people. That verse is directed to the very same people who founded and defended and furthered and nurtured this country. It is directed to you. And I want you to do something for me. I want you to think right now, in your own lifetime, has the influence of the government gone up or down, and has the influence of the church gone up or down? Because from where my vantage point, the influence of the government is going up and the influence of the church is going down. I want you to read something. I want you to read something called the Million Dialogue. And it's a conversation, it's a dialogue between the people, the millions, the people from Milos, and the Athenians. They were about to wage war against each other. Athens was huge and powerful. The millions were small. And there's a dialogue, it's a debate between the Athenians and the millions. And the millions were having to decide whether or not to surrender and capitulate, or whether or not to fight, even though they knew they were going to lose. There was no way the millions could beat the Athenians. Every commonsensical notion told them to surrender or partner with the Athenians. So there's a dialogue back and forth. The millions were pure. The millions were idealistic. And then the millions were destroyed. What do you believe in enough to lose? What do you believe in enough that you would march forward even if you knew that you were marching forward to a certain defeat? I want you to read the Million Dialogue. It's short. I made every employee at the district attorney's office read it. And then I asked them two questions. Which do you value more, truth or freedom? And every single person in my office said freedom. And I said, okay, which do you value more, unity or diversity? And every one but one said diversity. Look, truth and freedom are both really important. But at some point, you and your generation have to ask yourselves, what is the benefit of the freedom to be wrong? Do you really value freedom more than truth? Do you even think there is a truth? But we are, after all, the United States of America. So what is it that unites us? So I'll go back to the verse, and I'll think, well, is there an answer in that verse? If my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their what? Wicked ways. Well, maybe there's a start. culture, can we at least agree that there is good and bad? Or is everything relative? For 16 years, I never once stood in front of a jury and tried to convince them that murder was wrong. Never once. I never tried to convince a jury that robbery was wrong, that discrimination was wrong, that mistreating children was wrong. So there is a source of unity. There is a code by which we all have agreed to live. What is the source of that code? And if you are in that group that wants a better future than the present you are experiencing, if you don't like this disunity, if you don't like this sense of angst, if you don't like what seems to be forcing you to be detached and cynical about your country and your government, then you got to do something about it. You got to figure out what you believe, and more importantly, you got to figure out why you believe it. It is never enough in politics or any other sphere of persuasion to simply tell people what you believe. You have to tell them why you believe it. Do you believe in respect for the rule of law? Let me tell you something about the law. It is the most unifying and equalizing force that we have in this country. It is the only thing that makes the richest person in this county drive the same speed limit as the poorest person. It is what makes the richest person in Virginia pay his or her taxes on precisely the same day as the poorest. So if you don't like the direction of our country or you want a better future, what do you believe and why do you believe it? Secondarily, you can be the smartest person in the world, and if you can't communicate what you believe, you're not going to be very successful. So you do need a message, and that message better be why you believe what you believe, but you also need a very effective manner or method of communication. In other words, you need to learn how to persuade. How do you persuade in life? Facts, authenticity, sincerity, credibility. You want to persuade, change people's minds to come around to your way of thinking on whatever issue it is, and I don't care about your politics. They're none of my business. You can have whatever politics you want. But I will tell you what doesn't work: insulting people. Any of you have been married for more than a week? Any of you aspire to be married at any point in life? Let me give you a piece of free advice after 25 years of marriage. Insulting people does not work if your objective is to persuade. Look, I did not vote for President Obama. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for him. But you know what? A majority of my fellow citizens did. So when I see a bumper sticker that says, don't blame me, I didn't vote for the idiot, do you think that's persuasive? Do you think anybody that voted for President Obama is going to be persuaded, yeah, maybe I possibly made a mistake because this person called me an idiot? Life doesn't work that way. You know what happens when you're insulted? You become even more dogmatic in holding your incorrect belief than you were before you were insulted. So if your goal is to persuade, you shouldn't be insulting people. Let me tell you what else doesn't work. Hypocrisy. Telling other people how to live their lives, but you live your life a different way. You want to persuade people? Hypocrisy doesn't work. Insults don't work. What does work? A relationship. The person has to know that you care about them. They have to know that you care about them. There are two people in politics that I think do a wonderful job of that, and I don't care whether you support either one of them. One is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio was raised by a woman that cleaned other people's hotel rooms. But she had hope. She had hope that her son would have a better life, and now he's in the United States Senate. And the other person who does a wonderful job of communicating hope is a guy named Tim Scott, who is my best friend in politics. And Tim Scott's grandfather, who's now 94, would hold a newspaper up every morning at breakfast. Wanted Timmy to see him reading the newspaper because of the value of education, the power of education. Wanted Timmy to be informed. Wanted him to be up on current events. So he held the newspaper up every single morning. Except he couldn't read. Can't read to this day. But he wanted to communicate hope to his grandson about the power of education. You want to persuade people? Do you speak in hopeful terms? Do you communicate hope? Are they convinced that you have their best interest at mind? So you got a message. You got a manner of communicating. Now, all you need is a messenger, right? You're just waiting on whoever that is. Whether it's President Obama, whether it's Ronald Reagan, whether it's Abraham Lincoln, we're just waiting around on that great messenger, right? If you were waiting around for another Ronald Reagan or another Martin Luther King Jr. or another Abraham Lincoln, you are going to have a long, miserable wait. It's not going to happen. If you're waiting on a knight or knightess to ride in on a white horse and change whatever you think ails our country, or your school, or your community, or your family, it's not going to happen. You know who the messenger is? It's you. I work in a town that is named for Washington. I fly into an airport named for Reagan. I pass monuments to Jefferson and Lincoln and King, and every street is named after somebody famous, and there are statues and portraits in every one of the office buildings. I don't even know. They're so famous, I don't even know them. You know what I think about when I fly into Reagan? I think about a guy you've never heard of. You've never heard of him. I was about your age. I was exactly your age, watching television with my father. February, in the throes of a terribly frigid winter in Washington, and a plane crashes into the 14th Street Bridge. And all the passengers except a half dozen were killed on impact, and those half dozen were in the icy waters of the Potomac River. And I'm watching this on television with my dad. This is before 24-hour news, but it was captivating the country. So you got these people in the icy waters of the Potomac, and you got the whir of a helicopter coming. And that helicopter lowers a rope ladder into the waters of the Potomac, and it falls into the hands of a man you've never heard of before. If I called his name right now, you don't know him. So he has life in his hands, and he passes it to a stranger. And that person is hoisted to safety, and the helicopter takes her away, and it comes back, and the same scene repeats itself 4 more times. And every time, he's got his hands on a rope ladder. He is this close to saving his life. And every single time, he passes it to a stranger. Not his wife, not his daughter, not his best friend, a stranger. And when the helicopter came back for him, he had succumbed to fatigue and drowned. His name was Arlen Williams. I'm not asking you to be Reagan. I'm not asking you to be Lincoln. I'm just asking you to live a quiet life of conviction and virtue and actually live out what you profess to believe. And if you can do that, you'll be a leader, you'll be persuasive, and your generation will get this country headed back in the direction that you want it to be in.
That's Congressman Trey Gowdy. This is a powerful word, and we're gonna make that paper available for you too, so you can read about that.
Million dialogue.
Yeah, so that you can read about the historical stand that they didn't take because they were idealistic. There comes a point. I mean, that's a great question to ask. Which would you choose, truth or freedom, unity or diversity? And that we have to, be willing to just, you can't have everything. You got to decide what you're going to do when things come down for a choice like that.
That's right.
And of course, that's where we are today. And I love the fact where he said that, that we got to be able to, just because you're smarter doesn't mean you have the ability to communicate what's going on. We have to educate her. It's amazing to me. And since we've been on television and doing the different things we've been doing and radio, we've been learning out loud and learning things we didn't pay attention in school, and the media was entertaining us but not educating us, and so we had to begin to educate ourselves, and we were finding out things that are like, all of these congressmen, these senators, these presidents and Supreme Court, they take an oath of office that says, I swear to defend the Constitution from enemies foreign and domestic. Their whole purpose for being there is to guard the Constitution. But yet we've seen years and years of the very people said that they would protect it, attacking it.
Trying to destroy it.
Watering it down. I just heard with the Gorsuch hearing going on, that one particular Congress lady said, or senator, I forget her name, Boxer, I think, no, it wasn't who she was, but she's talking to this potential Supreme Court justice, and she says, if you accept the Constitution, that means you accept this negative thing, this negative thing, this negative thing, women's rights, slavery, different things of that nature. And it's like, that's not true, because the Constitution can change as the people vote amendments on it. Those things changed because of the Constitution. Because we had a Constitution that if the people, two-thirds of the states decided they wanted an amendment, they can change it. That's how this country changed. That's how we moved. And out of all the countries that are available to go to historically, America's made some huge movements towards a positive area. I think about the former president of King's College,
Dinesh D'Souza, and he had a couple documentaries, and he talks about where people tried to the lies being spoken over America. Well, no man's perfect and no country's perfect. But if you got to pick a country to go in, isn't it interesting that they're coming over the American borders? That's right.
People say, oh, Denmark's such a great country. There's 6 million people there, and you don't see Americans catching a boat. People say Canada's great. Well, you're free to go there, but they don't go there. Why?
In fact, some pledged that they would go there. They didn't go.
They didn't go.
They didn't
People
go.
were buying tickets. But the whole thing is, the reason why is because it's not perfect, but out of the different countries that are available, God has really blessed America, and this Constitution is important. But to remove this Constitution is to remove the aquarium that the water's in, that your fish is in. Your water's going to pour everywhere. And I like that he says, not only do we have to know something, but we have to be willing to die for that cause. Like this last man he thinks about that was in the water during the Potomac, and the water was so cold, he was letting other people go first. We watch movies about that. But we got to start being the movie. We have to start living that in our life. People love to watch other people act and being that last person who's willing to say, they'll go down with the boat. But there really was people that would go down with the boat. I think about one particular SEAL team member that just gave his life for our country to be able to get the secrets that we just got in Yemen, I believe it is. And we talked about it on our program. But he gave his life for us. How could we waste that? How can we not say we need to do what's right? I mean, if he gave his life so that we could be free as a country, then we need to stand up the way that he stood up, and the way that the military stands up every day, the way the officers stand up, and the way that leaders are in support of our Constitution is. I mean, I'm very grateful for Congressman Trey.
Gowdy and how he stood up, and he's basically saying, listen, Liberty University, Christians out here, all I'm asking is you to live up to what you believe in. When you think about Paul, the Apostle Paul, every time he showed up at a city, it was either riots or a revival or both that would take place. And Christians United standing up in the synergy of these universities and saying Christian Union and saying, listen, we got to stand up for what's right. If they push you, stand up for your First Amendment rights and you'll win. And they did win. And now Congressman Trey Gowdy's going, listen, Liberty University students, and that's to us too. Say, listen, we need to actually practice what we believe. And
it's time to stand up.
Well, you get a lot more merciful too when you actually realize, like, hey,
it's going to cost me something.
Grace. There's grace involved in this, but that's going to make the difference. It's not living a hypocritical life and just wanting things to be better in other people's lives so your life's better. Instead of saying, let's all humble ourselves and seek forgiveness and begin to be a disciple to learn exactly what Jesus says. He says, those who know my teachings and follow my teachings are really my disciple. Then they know the truth, and the truth will set them free. If we want to be free in our nation, we need to learn the truth about ourselves as Christians, following Jesus Christ and what his teachings are, and the truth about our nation. What does our Constitution say? I mean, if anything you should have in your house, you should have a Bible, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution, because these are the very items that are under threat. I'm your host, Greg Lancaster, and we're so glad that you've joined us. Don't forget you can join us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download our app and sign up for our newsletter, The Torch, at VFNtv.com. I've enjoyed our time together. God bless.